if I'm on the road Thursday through Sunday, I need to have structure Monday through Wednesday. Just like little moments of like touch points throughout the week to give something to your life.
Welcome everybody to Nashville Drummers Podcast, episode 28.
Today's guest is Sammi Potts. And we've had a few of these classical percussionists turned rock stars on the podcast. And Sammi was definitely a great example of someone who has grown up in the classical world and has really made a great career for herself already at a young age. She's currently playing with up-and-coming country star Shane Profitt.
One of my biggest takeaways, or the things that I was most interested in hearing from her, was how when she's not on the road, not touring, she misses it a lot, and that's the time when she needs to focus most on her mental health, which is kind of the opposite of what you hear a lot. People talk about how harsh the road can be and how much you miss home, but her perspective was kind of the other way around. So with that in mind, in a short while, we're going to have a little bit of a roundtable and talk about some of these mental health issues that musicians go through.
Yeah, and she offers some really good strategies and some takeaways for everyone that maybe is going through that or will be going on a tour this year. She also goes into the importance of mentorship and how having people in your circle, whether it's other drummers, other musicians, just friends and peers, is super important.
Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to thank our newest sponsor, Drumbox, Nashville's newest practice space for drummers. Hey drummers, do you need a place in Nashville to practice on actual drums? Drumbox is Nashville's newest drum practice studio. Book sessions online and get the space to yourself. It's fully equipped with 2 kits, cymbals, hardware, and even sticks are provided. 30-minute, 1-hour, and 2-hour sessions are available at www.drumbox.space and use the coupon code NDP25 for 25% off your first session. Again, that's www.drumbox.space.
Our next guest was born and raised in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and she began training as a classical percussionist when she was 8 years old. Not long after, she was immersed into the thriving music scene of the Twin Cities, inspiring her to develop her skills as a drum set player. She moved to Nashville in 2013 to study music at Belmont University, where she was the recipient of the Wilson Music Scholarship. And we're definitely going to chat about her time working with Chester Thompson and Zorro, among others. Since graduating, she has been invited to perform at the Grand Ole Opry. And in 2018, she performed with Carrie Underwood in her music video, Love Wins. She currently tours with Shane Profitt and has recently performed with Drake Milligan, Tiara Kennedy, Jenna Paulette, and Mariah Peters. And I'm sure there's a lot more that we're going to get into. So we're excited to welcome Sammi Potts to the podcast.
Man, thank you. It's pretty weird just sitting here while that's being read.
Yeah, right?
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot there that I'm sure we want to get into.
A ton to unpack. Where do you want to start with that?
So just give us the quick, so you've been in Nashville for how long? And
Almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years, right?
Yeah, it's been a long time. They say it's a 10-year town, and man, I'm feeling it. Like this past couple years is when things have just fallen into place so perfectly, but it took a while.
Yeah.
I did the Belmont thing. I went in as a double major, ended up dropping my second major so I could focus on music. And it's got to study with all those amazing guys there.
Yeah.
Zorro was my main professor there, and then Dorico, and then I had a couple lessons with Chester as well.
Man.
So,
Yeah.
I just have heard nothing but the most awesome, well, obviously all those guys, but specifically I've heard a ton about Dorico.
Yeah.
A bunch of my friends were like, I took from him, and that was like intense.
I think that a lot of us would probably say Dorico, like, he will humble you. You'll be like, oh man, like I gotta work. And then Zorro was the one that was like, yes, you do, but this is where you can be because you're a great, person and player. Wow. And so he'll build you right back up. So the pairing of that was like spot on.
Nice. Have the guy that just wreck your ego and the other guy just be like, it's going to be so good. You're going to do great. You're like, I love you. Thank you.
I think in the same week, Dorico was like, you'll never have a career in music. And then
oh my gosh.
Zorro was like, the sky's the limit, Sammi. I can see you just doing this for the rest of your life. And I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I'm so conflicted.
Yeah, as a young drum set student in a new city, how did you deal with that? I mean,
Man.
just a lot of emotional ups and downs, it seems like.
Yes, it was hard. And I mean, you guys have interviewed a ton of people even in my class. And that was a stacked class. Like those guys.
Who was in your class again?
Well, I graduated a year early. So I had a little mix of both. But I had Simon Knutson, John Lee, Kip Allen, Spencer Moore. I'm trying to think who else.
You said Kaylee was after you?
Kaylee was, I think she was 2 years before me.
Before you, okay.
It's really confusing because of I came in a little bit and left a little bit early, but yeah, I think she was 2 years before me. So she was awesome because I think we were the second and third females to ever graduate from that program.
Oh, wow.
Really?
So to have her as a mentor was like
That's wild.
Awesome. Like she got me my first arena gig. She was really just so awesome for me.
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, we love her. We had her on pretty early on in the podcast.
Yeah.
and-
She's great.
There were
was great.
multiple moments during that podcast where Dan and I looked at each other. We're like, "Wow, we really need to get on our shit."
Right? That's how I
She's so
felt
on it.
constantly.
Yeah.
My
I was
God.
like, oh, wow.
Oh, I had this idea of this thing that I wanted to do, and so now I am doing that
Yes.
thing. Like, oh my God.
She's incredible.
Her bad days are most people's like, I've made it moments. you know?
Oh yeah. Sometimes I still wonder. I'm like, I wonder if I'm good at like as good now as she was in high school. Probably not, because she's a killer player.
Yep.
She's got chops for days.
Well, let's go back. You mentioned high school, and obviously in your bio there, the whole classical percussion
Yeah.
journey I'm fascinated about.
Yes.
And just talk to us about growing up in Minnesota and kind of your mindset as a young percussionist, and then what that was like transitioning to drum set.
Yeah, absolutely. So Minneapolis, we have funk. We got Prince up there.
Yeah, you
We
do.
got Corey Wong. He's from my hometown.
Yep.
And theater was like pretty much it. There's like an indie scene.
Wait, do they have funk theater?
I don't know.
They should.
Maybe we invent that.
Listen, you
He always
Heard
looks
it
at the
here
camera
first.
at least once.
invent funk theater. It's the two things you have. Put them together.
I would watch that.
I would.
I would go for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's start that.
Just saying. Okay, that's going in the notes.
Yep. Put it in the
Funk
notes.
That started already. Here we
Yep.
go.
Yeah, so I pretty much those are the main influences up there. Not a ton of country in the Minneapolis scene at all. A little bit of CCM, and so I grew up just thinking I was going to be like this classical marimba player. Like that was my life calling. My
Wow.
sister is a professional classical flute player.
Ah, okay.
So
I was going to ask if your family was musical.
yes, she is incredible. My dad was a guitar player growing up, and my mom was a drummer. Did not tell me that until I moved to Nashville. And I was like, Mom,
How do you leave
What?
that out? Yeah.
I know. I was like, that's a key piece of information.
Wow.
So it was in my DNA. I don't know how we
What-
missed that.
Did
Yeah.
she explain why she didn't tell you?
She was like, oh, I wasn't really. It was just like a couple years. I'm like, Mom.
It was a couple of years.
like, who else has a mom that was like, yeah, I play drums.
Yeah, right.
So it's in there. It's in my DNA.
That's so
cool.
It's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, it'd be one thing if it was like, yeah, it was something I did for 6 months.
right?
Like I tried it. I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
Like, you did it for more than a year, then you did it.
I know.
You did the thing. Yeah.
Well, and as you guys know, it's like your parents being okay with you having a drum set in the house is 90% of the battle.
Yes.
So I
where it
always wondered,
starts.
like, she was so like, yeah, do it. Like, so supportive. Now I know why.
Yeah.
She just
Wow.
secretly wanted to have a drum set so she could practice when I was gone, probably.
Oh my gosh.
That was the plan all
Yep.
along.
It was.
You're going to go back and she'd be like, all right, paradiddle battle. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been waiting for this moment.
My whole
Your whole life.
yes, yep. Now I
whole
understand
yeah.
why I was born.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, but started just doing classical. I got way too serious. Like, would just practice marimba for hours and just thought that was it. And then when I was 16, I was like, I feel like there's only, I don't know if y'all know much about the classical world, but
Yeah, that's my background as well.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you know, like, you only get an orchestra gig if someone dies because they're like tenure
Yeah, that's how competitive.
into it. And
Yeah.
there's what, like 2-3 professional orchestras in each state.
Right.
So your odds of being pro at that are very slim.
Yeah.
So I was always the business thinker. So I was like, maybe I should like incorporate drum set. and then just fell in love with it because of the creativity and the flexibility that's not in classical.
What was it about the marimba, though? Because I'm guessing you were
man.
still a well-rounded percussionist, right? Having to do different orchestral parts.
Yes.
Early on, like, people tend to still gravitate towards like marimba, or like there's always like the drum set player, like,
True.
oh, he's going to play snare. So what was it about the marimba for you?
Man, I just felt like for me, it was the one I just wanted to practice the most because it was so like as that human and just like gorgeous tone to it, almost like cello. Like there's something human about it.
Yeah.
It's so just deep and gorgeous. And if you mess up, it sounds beautiful still.
Yeah.
So it was very motivating.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, did you own one?
Yeah, I have one in Nashville
still do?
area.
Oh, my gosh.
It's oh gosh, I'm gonna embarrass my classical. I think it's like a 4 1/3 octave.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Is it a Paduke, Rosewood, you know?
It's a Paduke?
Yeah, I had
It's a
probably,
Yamaha.
I had the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't have it anymore. I sold it when I was in college, basically, but
It's amazing.
yeah. Nate's been trying to learn the marimba for a while.
Do it, man.
There's been a trope. This is ongoing. Most of the guests that we have had can play the marimba, and I cannot play them. I've never played the marimba. I play a little piano now, but
I think it would come naturally. I mean, there is a technique involved,
Yeah.
especially if you're getting to 3-4 mallets.
right. But I'm
But,
like,
like-
why everybody?
But you know
that's
what,
a
Nate?
huge-
It has made me $0 in this town.
I mean,
So
but it's
Yeah.
really cool.
it's really cool.
We need to have like a
Somebody-
marimba like master class or clinic.
Yeah.
We'll go to your house. We'll play marimba.
Perfect.
and just go and don't invite me because
No.
it's my destiny to never know how to play the marimba.
Yeah, we might have unlocked something great here. You never know.
No, I actually really would like to, and especially now that I'm doing composition and I wrote that
Yeah.
little like xylophone solo. I was like, well, I got to learn how to play. I probably should learn how to play the marimba.
Now you have to.
I think you would pick it up quicker than you think.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Done. It's happening.
Yep,
Yep.
let's go.
Let's go.
So you went from marimba to drum set because you kind of felt more creative opportunities, and
Yes.
obviously,
Yeah.
like you said, the business mindset as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when picking colleges, I kind of did both. Like I got into some schools for marimba and then Belmont. And then my drum set teacher just said, you got to be in LA, Nashville, or New York. And Nashville just felt like home. And I got into Belmont. So I was like, let's go.
Yeah.
So
Have you been to Nashville prior, like visiting, or
just
was it just
to
a cold
audition.
move? Okay. Yep.
Yeah, just for that audition. And then just, fell in love.
That was it.
It was love at first sight.
Do you know what it was about Nashville and Belmont that really stuck out to you?
Yes. The mountains I loved. And they're not even that big, but it was just enough where it's like, this feels good.
Yeah.
And then I think the small town feel, I mean, it's huge, but
Right. But it's not LA or
it's
New York.
not LA or New York.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
I'd feel very lost there.
Yeah.
And overwhelmed. And Belmont is just, it was gorgeous. And just felt like it was the right move.
My wife and I moved here sight unseen. We didn't.
Oh my gosh.
Like our friends moved out. They were like, "It's great. Come out here." And we said, "Okay."
Wow.
Found an apartment online, moved in, and got here and was like, "Yeah, this place is awesome. Love
It's
it.
the best.
It's the best."
Mm-hmm.
So
But actually, it's not. So don't move here. We're full.
yeah, we're full.
Just
No,
kidding. We'll take you.
It's funny because multiple people now have weirdly had another one today. He didn't tell me he moved here but multiple people have come up to me like, "I moved to Nashville because of your podcast." I'm like,
What?
"What
That's
in
insane.
the world?"
Wow, you guys
pretty
are
cool, though.
having some influence.
It kind of freaks me out.
Yeah, that's a lot of power. Wield it wisely.
Feel it.
Do we get like some kind of royalty on that down the road?
Yeah,
or-
you guys should get a like NFT or something on moving to
We should
Nashville.
NFT this podcast.
Yeah.
Yes. Now we're talking.
I think that's how it works, right?
Yeah. That's what happens when you speak to Mark for 30 minutes before the interview. We started
Yeah.
talking. He was talking about AI and all that and crypto and
Yeah.
The
Getting our
future.
brains working.
Yeah, you got primed before I even got here. It's not
We were
even fair.
primed, yeah.
My brain's my brain's tired from playing for 4 hours. You guys had 30-minute conversation.
we're having
before I-
intellectual conversations.
yeah.
Yeah. We're solving the world's issues.
Oh,
You're just like, I'm hungry. What's for dinner?
Sorry,
yeah,
we're-
on to the next thing.
I derailed. I'm sorry. That's
all right.
my worst.
That's all
It's my
right.
worst and best trait.
That was all good. because I was maybe in a similar boat. Like I was in an Empire State Youth Orchestra in New York,
Whoa.
which sounds like maybe similar to what you were doing in Minnesota. And I was surrounded by all these incredible peers that like eventually went on to play in orchestras and all over the world, honestly. But I had to make a choice for schools. Like, do I pursue just performance and orchestral percussion, or try to do something else? And I had this other passion for not just playing, but like marketing. I didn't know it was marketing yet, but just like dealing with media and like the business. I wanted to get a cool job somehow, still in the industry, you know.
Man.
Did you have a similar mindset in terms of like maybe performance isn't the only thing, or?
Yeah, I came in, man, it's so interesting because people tell you like you can't have a plan B or you'll fail. But then people also say you got to have a plan B. And so I came in very confused. So my plan B was physical therapy. So I was double majoring in that. And still to this day, I'm like, I would kind of love to be a physical therapist. But I think for me, drums is so my passion that's definitely my route now. But that was kind of my plan B. And then I got here and definitely didn't think I would be in the business side at all. But then just grew to love like, okay, how do I market myself as a business, and how do I like actually make this thing work? Because it's tough to like stand out. So kind of came in with that mindset. But then once I was probably a senior at Belmont, I was like, I just got to play, and that's going to be my life. And come hell or high water, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
You know, I think the thing about having a plan B, I think it's okay. It can be. There are situations in which I think you kind of have to burn the ships, so to speak. But a plan B is all right to have as long as you treat it like a plan B. But if you start putting more energy into your plan B, or even equivalent energy to your plan A, then that's a problem.
Yes.
I think you slowly on the side build up your plan B while you're putting probably 80% of your energies into your plan A. That just seems like that's it for me.
I love that.
If, you know, that whole Pareto distribution 80-20 thing gets turned around, I think you kind of screw yourself.
Yeah.
That happened to me for a long time. But I wanted to ask you, what did you do? Because you brought up, like, well, now what do I do to stand out? So what did you do to stand out?
Well, it helped that I'm a female.
Yes.
That helped and hurt a lot. So I would say right out of the gate, Zorro is phenomenal at this. He is like such a business oriented guy. So he was like, Sammi, go home and practice, but like go home and create a business card. Like that's equally as important as getting your groove. So I was like, okay. So I created my business cards. Then I built a website, and I am like, everyone talks about networking. I'm a terrible networker because I hate like social climbers. So I run from that. So there's probably a lot of relationships I've let go because I haven't wanted to like social climb or seem like that.
Yeah.
God bless you.
I tried.
I can't stand it.
It's so prevalent in this town.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I am such a relationship girl. So that's what I focused on, was like, okay, these friendships, like get my core drummers that are in my corner that we can sub for each other and just like figure this out together.
Yes.
So that was kind of my strategy. I got pretty lucky though, because right out of Belmont, I got my first gig that I was with for like 2 or 3 years. So I didn't have to scramble as much as I thought I would. And then after that became like, okay, like how do I keep this momentum going and figure it out?
And what gig was that?
So that was a CCM gig, contemporary Christian music, for those of you that don't know. And it was a very small gig. It was just a husband and wife, and I was their third musician in the band. And we just went all over the country and like played different events. And it was also probably where I learned a lot about music as a business, because they are essentially, no one knows who they are, but they're able to make a living for themselves and then for me as well.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, you can make this thing work, even if you're not Luke Combs or, you know, playing out in stadiums every night. Like, if you're smart, you can thrive.
Yes.
Definitely.
I think that's one of the key things about, it's not a native or unique thing about Nashville, but it is something that I've learned about being here, is all the people who are making music work for them who you've never heard of.
Yes.
You most likely will not ever hear of unless you live here. You're like, oh yeah, I know that guy. That's one of my best friends. But you're not going to like, he's not going to be in Modern Drummer. She's not going to be like, you're not going to hear these names. But like, but they're making really good money. They're killing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that always fascinates me as well.
Yeah. And that's kind of one thing I was thinking about wanting to like talk with you guys about too is like, so I, hate the social climbing thing.
Yeah.
And one of my professors once told me that Nashville, so places like LA or New York are known to be very cutthroat, very brutal. You kind of step on each other.
Yeah.
Cut ties if you need to just to get where you want to go. And he described it as like a mountain peak. And so you're climbing up the mountain peak and you get on the top and you're like pushing people off on every side just so you can be the king of the castle.
Yeah.
And he said, his name is Dan Keene, he's a professor at Belmont. He said, Nashville is a plateau. So you still get to the top of the mountain, but you get to be there with all your friends and pull them up with you.
I love that, yeah.
And that's what we're about, man.
Yes.
Like, that's what we're here for. And I think that changes everything and it makes it so much more fun. And it takes out I know they say like comparison is a thief of joy. Like in that, you don't have to compare. You can just say, all right, come on with me. Let's go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go to the top together.
Yeah.
I
love that.
It's such a big deal when you realize that you winning doesn't have to be at someone's detriment. And, and their winning isn't at yours.
Yes.
My high tide is going to raise all of our ships. And I'm like, that has been such a thing living in this town. There are so many, so genuine and generous, so many people that I've met. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to live here because of that exact thing.
Yes. And I feel like that's what you guys are doing, like building this community, because it's so fun to like see our other friends on this and be like, yes, they're killing it. Yes. Like, let's go together instead of, I used to be very jealous and like, oh, I wish I had that gig or like, let's just all be part of this crazy thing together.
I've tried, like my friend Joel got a gig that I was like, I had to be very frank with him. I was like, yo, I would be a complete hater if I didn't tell you that I'm jealous.
Yes.
I'm like, that is a killer gig. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, congratulations.
Yeah.
Like that was
100%.
Cool.
But also remember there's another interview that we did, and I think I brought up this quote. I forget who it was by, but it was like, pay attention to what you're jealous about because that's probably what you secretly want.
Yeah.
Ooh,
If you can get past the jealousy, insecurity of it.
That's right. Why I try not to keep it a secret. I'm like, I want that thing.
The longer I don't tell you,
but I'm happy that you got it.
I like that.
Yeah.
So we need to be jealous and learn the marimba.
Yep.
Is the takeaways today.
I think so. No, thank you for saying that, especially with this podcast. That is kind of I would say, a big reason why we started this, of trying to there's different platforms to do that, like it doesn't have to always be a public thing like a podcast, which is what we're doing, right? Every interview, every social media clip is like, look at this awesome person, let's celebrate them, let's learn from them.
Yeah.
But it could just be as simple as like you texting your buddy, like, hey, congrats on the gig. Like, I know you've worked so hard. It doesn't always have to be a public social media facing or a podcast for that to exist.
Yeah, man, that's so true.
Yeah.
And then that'll just bring you up too, because they're going to be like, all right, I'm going to take you with.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
Well, I had a friend who moved here really recently, and I know that he's a really talented musician. He's just a great dude. He had sent me a text a while back just being like, oh, wife's not feeling too good. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to check on, I'm like, every couple days, I'm like, hey man, how's she feel? Is she feeling any better? And he was talking about being a little bit maybe discouraged or disenchanted with music. I'm like, I hope you're doing better, man. Like, how are you? It really doesn't take a lot of energy.
Yeah.
You can do, and just from things he said back, I'm like, I know that had a positive effect.
Yes.
So why not do that? It feels good. Be selfishly do it.
Yes, exactly.
Do it because it feels good to do it. That kind of selfishness, I'm all for. Like, do it.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's what Heberman talked about in his podcast. It was like a gratitude. Because I think it's backwards. Like, we're told to like have like a gratitude practice. Giving praise to others is good for you.
Right.
Wow.
Well,
it's what you just said too. Yeah.
What's the thing? Like, the thing is, doing good feels good.
Yes.
We wouldn't do good if it felt bad to do, like at the very center of us. We do it because they're like, hey, I helped that guy out, and that was awesome. I'm so glad I did that. You don't go,
100%.
oh man, that was the wrong thing to do.
Right. You never regret it.
It feels great, so do it more.
Yeah, 100%.
Serving the Nashville, Brentwood, and Franklin areas, Music Lab Nashville offers comprehensive hands-on music lessons in contemporary techniques and styles. Students learn from the most qualified instructors in state-of-the-art practice and performance settings. All ages, all styles, all levels. Visit nashville.musiclab.co to learn more and to sign up for a free trial lesson.
It sounds like that first tour coming out of graduation kind of gave you, it was definitely a positive experience, right? And
Yes.
it kind of gave you permission to keep going. Do you recall any specifics of that experience, and maybe also some negatives of just or some setbacks where you were like, okay, I definitely want to pursue this, but it's going to be very challenging. Especially as a female too, that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Definitely want to hear more about that experience.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So at the time, it worked in my favor that I was a female for that gig because it was a duo and they had a young son, like a 3-4-year-old son. And so just having the family environment was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never had that since or before or after because it's most of the time you're just on the road with your boys and you don't get that family feel. So that really worked in my favor and helped me probably have the space to be a little bit more experimental in what I would try or even learn. I had never, I don't think I'd run tracks before that gig. So having the space and freedom to learn that on more of a smaller, low profile gig was awesome.
Less pressure.
Yeah.
Yep.
But transitioning out of that gig was hard because they were family to me. But then it's okay, but I need to grow. I need to spread my wings.
Yeah.
And I was turning down massive, I was getting opportunities to play in arenas and I was turning it down because of loyalty for them. And so that transition was brutal, just cutting the ties and taking the leap of faith to a gig that I wasn't on retainer on and just jumping around to the next thing and piecing it all together.
Yeah.
Those are hard couple years.
And when you did end things, were they cool with that? Were they? I mean, obviously they're gonna want you to stay, but were they happy for you that you were moving on to a bigger thing?
That one was rough.
No, okay.
I remember going to them with some opportunities and being hey, I got this arena opportunity. Can I take this one show off? And they said, no, you're already committed. So because of the family atmosphere, it became so personal and so hard. So that one really was
Bummer.
a really bummer.
Yeah. Okay.
But since then, when it's not that tight family environment, people tend to understand because they're we get it. It's Nashville. We're all
that's the industry.
growing and
Right.
learning. But yeah, so that was another hard learning experience too. Is how do you exit a gig gracefully and
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
It probably doesn't get talked about enough.
maybe not
Because the mindset is right, just go for it, get the best gig you can.
right.
It's well, what about all the gigs I'm on that ladder, on that ride up?
Right.
How do you manage that?
And again, you don't want to stomp on people on the way up to your
Right.
peak.
Yeah,
It's
that analogy. Yeah.
how do you handle that? It's really hard.
Yeah.
Really, really hard.
Well, now that you're established, obviously, you have a variety of people to call on. I assume you probably have your short list of people. Yes, okay. If I can't take this, or I want to move on from this because I have this other thing, I can call this up. Here are 3 people you could reach out to who'd be maybe interested in doing that thing.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
Really like that.
awesome.
Yeah, that's what John Bostwick said during his interview. Remember, because before he got the Parker gig,
That's
it was he was also kind of bittersweet to end those gigs, those early
Yes.
gigs, but then it was also a positive experience because he could then call up his buddies and be I got some new gigs for you guys.
Yeah.
So kind of back to that mindset of bringing everybody up with you.
100%. And it's kind of cool because it's I know you guys know, it's not when you get the gig, there's slow seasons too. So you might be with this phenomenal artist, but they might not be touring that year. And so then you have a dip. And so to have I have probably 4 guys that we trade gigs, sub for each other. It's hey, I'm on the tour this year. Can you step in for this? And it just works awesome because it is really hard to fill in those spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
So talk to us about, we mentioned in your bio earlier that you played for Carrie Underwood in a music video.
Yes, yep.
Yeah, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask about that story, for sure.
Yes, that was awesome. That was shortly before COVID. That was a Belmont connection. That was a film student at Belmont. And he texted me and said, hey, like, they need a drummer for this one music video. They want someone that's diverse. So not necessarily female, but just not, you know, maybe someone that you'd see as typically playing drums.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, sure. So I had to like sign a NDA, had to go through all these audition rounds. So that's when I was like, something's up.
Yeah, who is
this?
this?
What's going on?
Yeah.
So all my buddies, I was texting, I was like, you know, who do you think this is? We had all these theories and never thought it was Carrie. Carrie is my idol.
Yeah.
And
so they didn't, what specifics did they give you about it? Or you had really nothing to work with?
nothing.
Yeah.
They said, show up at this time for hair and makeup. And that was it. And I was like, sell up, let's go.
God,
So,
yeah.
and they said, bring I did not know this at the time, but it was kind of like a Civil War style thing. So I had to have my floor tom with like a strap around me and like play it like that. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I showed up and my friend was in a choir that was also hired for it. And we're like, who is this? Like, what's going on? And she's like, I don't know. We just got the lyrics for the song, but they won't let us hear the music because of all these restrictions and, you know, nothing can leak.
Right,
and they don't want to give it away, too.
Right.
Yeah.
So the choir is totally in the dark. I'm like, well, I'm sure not going to get any information. So they put me in this like dress, like Civil War style dress. And I was like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
And it was at, I think it was like the Natchez Trace like winery or something. And we go out there and still have no idea who it is. You know, they're having us like do all this stuff. And there was a scene where it was at night and they had fog coming through the woods and we were like marching and someone was coming through the woods behind us. We had no idea. So we shot the thing, turn around, and there's sweet little Carrie.
Oh my God.
And she's so short. She's so
Really?
tiny. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. Like I was almost crying.
Oh my God.
Wow.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That's just such a good story.
It was
Like,
bizarre.
Who in the world is... All right, here's my moment. This is where I'm finding out.
Right,
Oh my God,
right?
it's
Like,
Carrie Underwood.
wow.
Yeah.
Like it could have just been some rich kid that's parents was like, we're paying for this, you
Yeah.
know, but no, it was Carrie.
So were there other drummers there at that point?
There
Like-
was. I think there was like three other guys and then me. So it was
Yeah.
just
And you
me.
they picked you for the final
Mhm.
cut?
Yep.
Yeah. And how
Yeah.
did you find out about that? Like once it was over, once you realized it was her, you finished it, and then kind of what happened?
Then just went home. We're like, wow, that was crazy.
Planted some seeds today.
Yeah, didn't even know the name of the song. I think they had a fake name for the song. They kept telling us. And then when it came out, there was just like this straight up like frame of just me. And I was like,
Oh my God.
what is
Wow.
happening? So I'm in it like a decent amount. Not,
Yeah.
you
But no one
know,
told you, or you just like,
No.
you had to just find it on YouTube?
just, yeah, I was like, oh, let's see.
Oh my God.
Well, I'm trying, how
Yeah.
would I have known then?
I'm sure they had all your contact info and
Maybe they did.
with the NDA and everything.
The union, though, came after me for that one.
Oh.
Because I'm not in the union, and they're like,
Uh-huh.
you owe us $20 of union fees. And I was like,
Like, okay, here, fine. Get out of here.
Yeah, I was like,
Still not joining.
"Oh."
Yeah.
So that was kind of weird. And then my buddy, another female drummer in town, got the Carrie Underwood gig. And so that was really cool, full circle.
Who's that?
Elizabeth Chan.
Oh, yeah, okay. She's
yeah.
on
Huge.
my list to
She's
bring
on
in here
the-
too.
Oh,
sure.
yeah, you
Yeah.
guys got to get her.
Yep.
She's like my biggest mentor probably in town. She's awesome. There's kind of this weird, this is probably not something any of your boys have talked about, but there's a weird group of musicians that all prefer female drummers in town. So me, Kaylee Chan, we all get called for the same artist.
Interesting.
So we've all played for like a lot of artists. So my first, one of my first big gigs, Mariah Peters, we've all played for her.
Mhm.
And so it's really fun because you can just see like exchange stories, be like, how is this for you? What do I need to look out for? And
Yeah.
it's really cool. And
That's
then
awesome.
she got the Carrie gig and we're like, yeah, girl,
Yeah.
let's go.
Well, I wanted to ask you because you said that she's one of your biggest mentors. So what in particular do you look for in a mentor? What has she brought to that relationship
Mhm.
for you?
Oh man, that is a really good question.
I'm sorry, it's kind of broad. I just
Yeah.
mentorship is a really important thing. I think
Yes.
it's been very important in my life. So I just wonder
Yeah.
what that would look like for you.
I would say, first of all, it's like I look at their character. And if they are someone I admire for their character, that's the first thing. There's a couple drummers out there that I really respect their playing, but I'm like, ooh, man, you're not a good person. And that just stops it for me. I'm like, I don't care. I'm not going to study your work at all. Like, and maybe that's petty of me, but to me, I'm just like, I'm just,
that's the majority.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. I would say Zorro's huge. Elizabeth Chan is huge. Nicole Hickman, another female drummer in town, incredible character. And then Lester Stell Jr. from Kelly Clarkson.
Lester's amazing.
Their character is like bulletproof. And so I'm like, okay, how do I watch you navigate this really difficult industry where there's a lot of deception, a lot of social climbing, a lot of selfishness, and like, how do you navigate that? So with Chan, I went to her. I would play Jenna Paulette. We both played for, and Mariah Peters. So I was like going to her for advice and like, how do you navigate this gig? And that's really what started it. But then for me, her showmanship was like, oh, that's what's going to set us apart as female drummers. Why are we doing this? It's like we love getting out there and just like being like, this is who I am. Because in the studio, you know, it can be anyone playing. You can pick up nuances. Like we all know Aaron Sterling, we're like, yeah, that's, you know. But there's such a joy to playing live and saying like, this is what I have to offer. And I just want to give you 100%. And she does that so well. So that's kind of where I learned to just like play with reckless abandon and give it everything and let myself just give what I can offer.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
That's a topic I don't feel like we've covered a lot on this podcast. Maybe we have and I'm just forgetting. But showmanship is such a big deal.
It's come up in bits and pieces. I know Drew Marshall talked about it.
That's right. We did talk about
Jake a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah, Jake talked about that's why he plays open hand. He's like, yeah, it just looks better if you're doing this.
And with Andrew Grosso.
That's right. We've talked about it more than I thought, but it's just like it's just something that it bears repeating. But it's just like it is something that I wish drummers wouldn't scoff at.
Yes.
Like, okay, I understand. You want to have great technique. Awesome. Fantastic. Me too.
Yeah.
I'm a big nerd too. I get it.
Right.
But at the same time, you know what's awesome? Doing something that gets a crowd reaction.
Right.
And usually it's not something technical.
Yeah.
Right.
It's something you're doing with your body language, with your face, and just big floral movement. Like people love it. It's study showmanship. Do it.
Right. Rich Redmond, he is, man. I think he's like the father of showmanship for us. Because you just look at him and you're like, I want to, like if he was just bored back there behind Jason, you'd be like, cool, Jason's
like
awesome.
Snore,
But like, whatever.
No, but he looks awesome back there.
Yeah. He brings the energy and you're like, wow, this is why we're here and not at home listening to like the radio.
Right. Yeah. Because spoiler alert, they didn't come to your concert to hear the perfect album identical version of the song. They came to see a show.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Nate, this is one thing you and I can do. You'll have to work on it a little bit. But let me tell y'all, I started doing like hair flips. So when I hit both crashes at once, I can do it because my head goes down, flip it back up. People lose their minds and they think I'm like probably 200% better of a drummer than I am.
Yo, I just saw, I think you posted today or yesterday with your gig with Shane. It was like,
people lose it, man.
So badass.
Saying you and I, you'll have to work on growing it out.
That's fair.
I do something like that. And I have a whole like, okay, I'm gonna give this away right now.
Ooh.
We play we're one of like maybe 2 or possibly 3 bands that play Bohemian Rhapsody downtown. I have like a skit that I do during the entirety of the song. I like play out all of the lyrics anyway. But then at one point during all the Mamma Mia's, I'm like up and down here.
Yes. It's huge, man.
Yeah.
People love it.
I have people come up to me after, they're like, that was the best part of the show. I'm like, cool. Yeah. I'm like, it really was not a big deal, but it made such a bigger deal.
Right. And you know, those people on Broadway, like, they're not like, ooh, his flam was a little open.
Right.
They're like, that guy made our night, and we're going to tell all our friends back home, wherever they're from, about it.
And we're tipping $100 now.
Yes.
Slide it in.
Yes. Which that actually did happen today.
There you go.
We had the little post-show run. It was like, they were like, hey, the first time in Nashville, such a great, you just blew our minds. Here's $100.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Like, oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah, that's why Nate was late to this interview. He was counting money. So that's,
He
that
was
is allowed.
literally
Yes.
buying the bank.
Yeah, what can I say?
Yeah.
I will say though, with the hair flips, like we had a show last night. I literally still have a headache from, which is a problem. I'm like, do I have brain damage? So maybe we should do a podcast interview in like 4 years and check on that.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think that can be a risk of the academia world that a lot of us come from. You know, just we're so ingrained to just like practice exercises and come in and kind of copy paste drum books, the drum method books, the rudiments. So is that something that you felt going to Belmont that you had to explore outside of those lessons, like the showmanship? Like it sounds like you've picked up on that from different mentors in town.
Totally.
But did you get, I'm guessing that the lessons you had with Chester and Zorro, you probably had a little bit of that as well.
Yes. I would say Zorro was the one that kind of let me have freedom and like explore like what's beyond the page. But I was scared out of my mind at Belmont because it's like you got to practice 7 hours a day. You have to nail everything perfect. If you don't, you know, you'll get not yelled at. But, and so it took me like literally, I think it was right after COVID when it clicked. And that was like, I was in town for like 6 years at that point. And finally I was like, oh my gosh, like I just got to play. I mean, after COVID, we had nothing left to lose. So I was like, I'm going to play with reckless abandon because there's literally nothing left to lose.
Truly nothing, yes.
Yep.
And that's what I think it unlocked a little bit more.
Interesting. Yep.
Yeah.
So tell us about your current gig with Shane.
Yeah.
I'm not super familiar with Shane, but I know he's definitely a big act.
Yes.
Right? He's country.
Shane is country. Yeah. He is country, but with a pretty heavy rock influence. And that's my heart and love is like heavy, anything that you can just dig into.
I'm going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can't wait. It's different from Marimba. So Shane, I got the audition on my birthday for Shane.
Oh.
And I was on the road at the time. And I only had like, I think half a day to learn this material. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is not enough for me to feel comfortable. But I was like, let's just do it. So I went in, got the audition, and he just like has been taking off. He just got signed, I think in 2022, but his single's like 18 on the charts. So we're like,
wow,
let's go. Let's just ride this to the top. And we have a really busy year coming up with all like tons of festivals, tons of really awesome big shows. So yeah, we're just kind of in it for the ride.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. Had you been touring with other similar artists, or how did you, I guess, like, did someone approach you with that audition, or did you kind of seek that out yourself?
Yes. So right after COVID, I became friends with an A&R, this just incredible guy named Julian Raymond over at Big Machine. And we just struck up this friendship. And that was kind of in my phase where I was like, ooh, I can really like bring a lot of showmanship to performance. So I was kind of figuring that out right when I met him, and we just totally clicked. So he's gotten me lots of awesome auditions throughout the years. And then I play with an artist named Jenny Teeter that really helped me explore like the rock side. She's really just heavy hitting and awesome. And I still play with her as well. And so having that kind of lead into the Shane gig was like perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Twice now in the last couple of minutes, talked about the heavy rock stuff. Let's talk about influence.
Okay, you can't make fun of me, Nate.
No,
You swear across your heart?
I will not make. I won't hurt your feelings with what I have to say.
On the record.
I swear to be respectful with whatever you tell me.
Okay, you go first.
Oh,
me first.
Turning the tables. I like that.
Okay.
When you're like, Sam, who are your rock influences? Who is the one that popped in your mind?
Obviously John Bonham.
That's fair.
But the first name that probably pops in my head is Ainsley Dunbar. And he played for Zappa, he played for Jeff Beck, he played for David Bowie. But more importantly, he played on the first 4 Journey records. So the first 3 Journey records are prog rock albums. And the 4th one was the first pop album, and it had Steve Perry And Steve fired him because he played, do you know the song Wheel in the Sky?
Yeah.
You know that China symbol?
Yeah.
Steve was like, if you play that again tonight, you're fired. And he was like, go fuck yourself.
Oh my God. I did not
my
know
God.
that.
Peace out. I'm out. Like, I'm done.
Wow.
That's phenomenal.
So, yeah, Ainsley, definitely way up there.
I love that.
Yeah.
For me, it was also like Chad Smith,
Oh, yeah.
Travis Barker, of course, Todd Sturkerman, Vinny Caliuta. I was a Zappa guy as well in
Man,
college.
that's freaking cool.
I was in a Zappa tribute band, so that was wild.
No way.
Yeah.
Yep. But then, I love metal. I love like the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
We love Garska.
Yeah.
Garska.
All right.
We do love Matt. Matt, we'd like to have you on the podcast, buddy. Please come on the
Shout
podcast.
out.
Yeah.
So I grew up listening almost exclusively to CCM.
Okay.
So my influences are weird, like CCM drummers.
Mm-hmm.
So Timmy Jones, I don't know if y'all know him at all.
No.
He is a big player in the CCM world, was listening to all his records that he would play on. Had no idea it was him until I got to be in a band with his wife. And I met him and I was like, oh my gosh, like it all went together.
I know a lot of those artists, though. Who did he play for?
Okay, so he's been with everyone. He was with For King and Country for a while. I don't know if y'all know them.
Yeah, I love those
Absolutely.
guys.
I think he did Tomlin. I always get them confused. There's Remedy Drive, and then there's Switchfoot.
Oh, my gosh.
He wasn't with
Oh.
Switchfoot, though. I know that. I think
Yeah.
he was with Remedy Drive.
I didn't realize Switchfoot, they're technically CCM.
They technically are.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah.
So my first concert...
Start listening to those lyrics, buddy. It's in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
My first concert when I was 8, the drummer for the Newsboys...
Newsboys.
Newsboys.
Old
Yes.
Newsboys. You CCM people are going to know us right away because we're like old Newsboys. I'm talking 90s. Like the stuff now, no way. But
No. The old
Stuff
Newsboys is
now.
the best.
So for those of you that don't know, their drummer is on a spinning like platform.
Oh.
So he goes like whipping around while he's doing drum solos. And I was like, I have to be a drummer.
That's amazing.
And
yeah.
the singer plays drums, and they get
they
on
would
together.
do the duels.
Yes, I saw them at Spirit West Coast, and I was like, "This is the
Yes.
coolest."
So that, like,
Wow.
I didn't have I didn't even know who John Bonham was until I was
Yeah.
like 16. So
Yeah.
it was like, those are my influences that I'd go see in concert. And then now I've kind of reworked it where I'm like, oh, there's a lot more to this.
Yes,
But still at my core.
That's amazing. Yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
nothing to apologize for or anything. I mean,
Yeah.
we are the sum of our lived experiences, and that was probably a big part of the drummer that you are today,
Yeah.
you know?
That splitting
Yeah.
platform, man. I'm still waiting for my chance at that.
So did you go to all like those big festivals, like Spirit West Coast or anything like that?
Yeah. What's that big one? It's like the Road Show, something, and there's Winter Jam. Yeah, that's what I thought I was going to do. I was like, I'm going to be a CCM drummer. And then after that first family I was with, I did almost exclusively country because we're in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
So now I am with one CCM artist. And this is actually something I never thought I'd do. We all sing lead on it.
Oh,
So I'm drumming and singing lead.
love it.
And
Is that with Mariah?
no, although I did sing with Mariah, but it was background vocals.
Okay.
This is the band Jaren, and they're phenomenal, but it's a challenge for me for sure to sing lead and play. Very difficult.
Yes.
Very difficult. But yeah.
Do you take any kind of vocal lessons, or you're just kind of going forward every...
You know what? They're
Gets
trying
better
to
every
make me.
gig.
They're
Really?
like, you gotta take But no, I do from the lead singer.
Okay.
She's mentored me a lot.
Yeah.
And then in college I had to take a secondary instrument, and I picked voice, and that was
Smart.
Great choice.
Yeah.
kind of just what unlocked the beast for
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
I recently started vocal lessons as well. As I'm like, I really want to sing. I've always wanted to do that thing. I'm like, I want to break down the walls of fear between me and
Yes.
doing that. And
It's
like, it's
scary.
it's very like, somehow it's intensely personal, maybe
Yes.
even more than drums. I don't know.
Yeah.
And like, oh, if I sing poorly, then I'm like, then I have a bad voice.
Exactly. Instead of
Right.
oops, I made a mistake. It's like,
Right.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. How do you, did you have any of that to work through?
Oh my gosh, it was so bad because I had never sang in my life. Started taking vocal lessons. Then I think it was Zorro, actually. He was like, on your senior recital, sing a song. And I was like, Okay. Sang a song, and he came up to me later and he's like, maybe you should be a singer instead of a drummer. And I was like, I don't think so, but thank you.
That's a compliment.
Listen, buddy.
Yeah.
Right. And then,
What'd you say your name was?
yeah.
Sorry, that's my. You know Ron Bruner.
Yeah.
That's my favorite Ron Bruner comeback I've ever heard. Like
That's amazing.
Like Justin Brown, who plays with Thundercat, his brother. He's like, they're like shooting on each other, and Justin says some like, he's like, yeah, man, I like how you like played. He was just made some bullshit up about like how you messed this up. Like, and Ron just goes, listen, man, what'd you say your name was? And I'm like,
That's phenomenal. We need to use that every day.
That's so good.
Especially Nashville.
oh man,
yes.
it's so
It'll
good.
just knock people down. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I derailed. My bad.
I think the hardest thing though now is my boy Shane. He had this great idea and he's like, I want all my band members to have a little feature during our show. So I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So I sing Superstition because boy Stevie Wonder, drummer and singer, my idol. So I was like, I can at least do that. So I did it in
Are we talking vocal features?
vocal features
okay.
and drumming.
Oh, and drumming.
Yep,
Okay.
so
I was like,
everything.
I hope so.
And he's like, I love it. Let's put it in the show. So my first gig with Shane was in an arena and I had to freaking sing like lead in an arena. And I was like,
my God.
I want to die right now. But yeah, I think it's just constant though. Because I've been singing for years, but that still was like, I'm going to die. So maybe it's just constant terror. Maybe we need to get a singer in this podcast and be like, are you
Maybe,
okay?
Well, it's interesting. We've had a lot of drummers recently that have done the singing thing.
Wow, man.
And that seems to be a trend for success or something.
I don't
it makes you
know.
more of an asset, you know,
It's
in a
No
live
idea.
setting.
Any skill that you can stack on top of your main thing is
Yeah.
great. Like, well, I can run Ableton. I can sing.
Exactly.
Right.
I can play some piano, so I know what you're talking. When you're like, when I go to the fourth, I'm like,
Right.
I know what that is.
It's true.
Like that's any skill stacking is where it's at.
Skill stacking.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's very true.
I'm gonna preach that till the day I die, which is tomorrow.
What do you know that we? Stop. I'm gonna cry.
Listen, I plan things.
That's a good segue too into mental health in the industry.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it
Got a
is.
lot I can say about that, but
Yeah, well,
Let's go.
Let's go.
I don't know how
there,
much
yeah.
time we have. I don't want to
We're,
like,
I mean,
hey.
we're good. Yeah.
We're rolling. Go for it.
man, y'all. I feel like this is so under talked about
Mhm.
because it will mess you up and destroy you and grind you up and spit you out. And like those of us that are still here are just the ones that have managed to get through that somehow.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I've had so many of my friends, like some of the best drummers I know are because they practice so much. Their whole life is oriented around it that they don't have anything else in their life. So that when that goes down, it's like you're done, man.
Yeah.
Mentally.
Yeah.
So if you lose a gig or don't have anything going on, it can like absolutely destroy you. And so I'm a huge advocate for like have your like don't be in the practice room all the time. Like have your things that you love and your routines and your friends and non-musician friends and just like be able to get out of it for a second.
Yeah.
'Cause it's brutal.
Yeah.
You know what? We've been talking about doing a round table about this very
yeah.
topic, so you're invited.
Yes.
That is something we've been wanting to talk about. Our friend and sponsor of the podcast, Ben Wood, the
Wow.
owner of Music Lab Nashville, he reached out. It's like, hey man, I really want to get on and talk about some of those topics.
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Because
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
I mean, that hits close to home for me too. I've
Yeah.
gone through some shit, shall we
Right?
say, and I would like to talk about that at length at some point.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
100%. I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm grateful that you feel comfortable talking about some of that stuff for
yes.
sure.
Very
And to
passionate.
Ben's point, because I think he was also mentioning how I'm curious your take on this of the social media world
Oh my
that we live in,
God.
because like everything that, because we just see the the filtered daily snippets of people's lives, right? We see the
Yes.
arena shot, we see maybe even on the tour bus, but in
Yeah.
a fun setting, we don't see. Oh well, they only slept for 2 hours, or
Right.
they're hungry, or they're sick, or all those journeys that we go through.
Yeah.
What has been some of your experiences specifically on tour?
Oh man.
Kind of the ups and downs.
I don't know if a lot of my friends have experienced this. I don't know if it's how common it is, But I'm fine on tour, and then when I'm off, I'm like messed up because you get
like
so
a withdrawal.
depressed. Yeah. Even though you're back in your routine, you're comfy, and you're getting sleep and good food, it's like you are missing that like constant high.
Yeah.
And so for me, my first few years touring, I got like so depressed when I was home, and I like. Also, at that time, maybe just because my expenses were really low, I didn't have to do anything during the week. So I would just sit there, and it was horrible. And I think as I got older, I was like, okay, if I'm on the road Thursday through Sunday, I need to have structure Monday through Wednesday.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. If it's even like a workout class, like a Thursday night, or not Thursday night anymore, I can't with tour, but like a Tuesday night workout class, or like just like little moments of like touch points throughout the week to give something to your life. And a lot of guys that like are on the road and have jobs in town, that can actually be really good mentally for you. Even though you think you need a break, you need that too. But I think the structure is like massive.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, structure is huge. Well, it's interesting that you experienced it that way, like the at-home depression, because obviously you hear a lot about people going through hell on the road. I mean, like, man, it was just really, really hard to be away from just to be on the grind all the time, even in a good tour. And then, oh man, I just, being away from my family, being like that, all my routines, everything's chaos, even though it was really good and I got paid well and the people were great, I was still depressed.
Yeah.
But you're like, no, I was okay. Home after that, it's like, okay.
Yeah. Where's my purpose?
What do I do now?
Yeah.
That's something that doesn't get talked about nearly as much.
It's very bizarre. There's a Christmas tour I do every year. It's a month long. And,
After Christmas, that sounds pretty awesome.
So fun. And you're like happy, doing all this Christmas stuff. Get home Christmas Eve, do the Christmas thing, and you're home in January. And that's dead season for us.
Right.
So you sit and you're like, I have no purpose or reason to live. Like, it's hard.
Man, yeah.
And then it's like, okay, how do you pick yourself up? But then when I know it's my 4th year I've done that tour, it's like, you just got to anticipate that and say, okay, I'm going to go on a trip to the beach or like whatever, and just try to build something in there.
So would your advice for people, going through that now, maybe younger drummers or people that will be on tour maybe this year, it sounds like you kind of just have to find those other activities, right?
I think so.
Be very proactive about it. Maybe even just away from the drums, it sounds like.
Yeah,
right?
I think
like a
so.
Zumba class or some other sport activity or.
I really do think so, which I know is kind of counterintuitive. It's like we love what we do, but I think if it's all your eggs are in that basket, as far as like what you enjoy to do, I think it can be pretty devastating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think I like the guys that I listen to the most are their whole life isn't the drums. They have other outlets, and those things are refueling for them.
Yeah, I mean, drumming is an art form, and like any great artist, you need to draw inspiration from other areas.
Right.
That's true too.
If you're just in the practice room, you're only in that one mindset. Like you can only draw inspiration so much from the physicality of the drums,
So how do you refuel?
I would say for me, my like touch points are like working out every day, even if I'm like, oh my gosh. Like for me, that mostly to get me outside in the sunshine.
Nice.
So that's like a big touch point. And then bar class for my ballet lovers. I love ballet because it keeps everything aligned.
Very cool. Yeah.
After we're hunched over all day.
Yep.
Yes.
So I love that.
Great for posture.
Travel, family's huge. I'm like going back home all the time.
Back to Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Yeah. Minnesota.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
How often would you say you're going back home?
Lately, I've been like every 2 months. It's a lot. But this summer, we have shows up there all the time. So I'm like, saddle up. Makes it easy for me. Other than that, it's really hard.
I will say that is the one thing that is a drawback to the whole Broadway thing.
Oh, right.
Like, it's always time to work. It's always time to work. And I'm like, okay, cool. And it is like having a normal job in that way. But it's just, if I'm not present, I'm like, okay, I have to find a sub. And even the best sub is like, they don't know the way we play the songs quite like you know the way.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like, I don't want you guys to make less money because of me being gone, but would like to go home. And
when you
see
talk
my
about
parents.
it too, there's pressure on you to get that sub.
Yeah.
Right.
So that drummer fucks up, like, I mean, you kill it on the gig, but that's gonna eventually come back to you. And
Right.
that's a habit, you know.
Totally.
Especially when my guitar player has missed his anniversary and Valentine's Day for like many times in order to be present. I'm like, man, I respect that, but I really want to go home. I really would love to see my parents. Like they got their house burned down.
Oh my gosh.
I haven't got to see the new house yet. I really want to go home.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this conversation is encouraging me. I'm going to have a conversation with my band and be like, hey, I love you guys, but I need to start going home more.
I love that. Dan already promised he'd sub for you. We talked about
Did
it.
I?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Before I even got here.
Yep. Yeah, it's so important. And then it kind of reminds you of like who you are, because here you get in like a weird like alternate reality. And
Yeah.
very grounding.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Nothing quite like going back to your hometown to have be like, oh yeah, this is
why I moved.
this is who I am and why I moved.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Yep.
Love you, Redding, California, but I don't love meth. So
Wow.
yeah.
Where are you from, Dan?
From Albany, New York.
Wow. So we're all very extreme, far away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess
Long
so.
flights home.
Yeah.
Yep. And not direct. Actually, there's now a direct flight to Albany,
No kidding.
but it sucks. It's like only Mondays and Fridays.
Wow.
It's through Allegiant, I want to say.
There is no
Like-
such thing as a direct flight to Reading.
Yeah.
That will
Dang.
never be a thing.
Yeah.
Ever. That's just Reading's way too small. Well, who knows? If Bethel gets any bigger, God forbid.
That's true. Yeah, is this podcast going to go to Bethel now? Because we got
Might,
no.
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
Listen, I love a lot of the people there, but they bought my entire town and
Oh,
don't like
wow.
that.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah.
We got some hot takes, boys.
takes, yeah. That's
I'll
always
give
full of hot takes.
I'll
on
give
us.
the hot takes.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid. But anyway.
All right, let's do some wrap-up questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some Nashville specific, maybe.
Yeah.
You go first.
Where are your favorite places to grab a bite to eat in our fair city?
I have to do Red Door. I feel like that's like the musician hang.
Yes.
I love Velvet Taco, you guys. Like, I would kill
That's next to Drum
someone.
Supply, right? Or no,
maybe. There's one
You're
in
thinking of
Midtown.
Moss Taco.
Mas Taco. Yeah.
Oh, Moss Taco. I mean, tacos. Any tacos.
Yeah.
Velvet Taco, I'd literally, I have made myself very sick.
I've still never been there.
I mean, it's a chain, so it's like, how great can it be? It's great.
It's great. Okay.
Okay, what's your favorite thing about this city and your least favorite thing about Nashville?
We'll start with least favorite.
Okay, that's
Because
so easy.
I feel like we're wrapping up and I don't want to be like, and this is why Nashville sucks.
Yeah.
Right. Definitely the traffic. And then favorite thing about Nashville, I would say I just feel like the city has like a heartbeat about it that is in no other city. Like there's a life and you can just meet anyone that's like willing to risk it all for their dreams. And I feel like that's very rare.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Upon moving here, I said this to my wife so many times. We'd be out of like Buffalo Wild Wings or something. Like,
Yeah.
Just look around the room and go, hey, isn't it weird that a bunch of the people in this room are probably musicians? A bunch of them. Like, so anytime you're out, you have an opportunity to, whoever you're connecting with can connect you to a bunch of other things. And like, it's not in a like gross climbing the ladder way, but like
Right.
just know that every person you meet, it's a chance to be a good person, and it's a reminder not to be an asshole.
Right.
Because it will cost you in the city probably more than anywhere else.
right. Good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
It's so connected. Yeah.
Like, if you get blackballed here, that's it.
Yep.
You're not working.
Yeah.
You go, that guy sucks. Okay, yeah, he said some really terrible shit to me. Cool. He will not work.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yep. Ain't that the truth?
Yep.
Well, we have to ask because it's tradition. We want to know if you do the hot chicken.
I do the hot chicken and I do it very mildly. Is that still an answer that I do it though?
Very mildly? Are we talking no spice level, or are we talking... Because there's every hot chicken
Yeah.
place, there's the no spice. That's just fried chicken.
I'm one up.
Okay,
Okay,
you're on
that's
the
fair.
mild.
Yeah.
Okay, that's still
Yeah.
respectable.
That's a good question.
Yeah, we do ask that for every guest.
Yeah.
What's your question, Dan?
My question is, what's the next piece of drum gear you're going after?
Boys, we're going for a new drum set.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, yeah, we were sort of talking about this earlier.
Big time. She's gonna be thick and she's gonna be punchy.
Yes.
And she's gonna be a 22 kick and a 13-inch tom, a 16-inch floor, maybe 2 floors if we're getting freaky.
Let's do it.
It's gonna have a walnut stain with natural hoops.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where do you want people to find you?
I am at Sammi Flower Potts. My last name is Potts. One person actually thought my full name was Sammi Flower-Potts.
That's
and I was like, that is not my name. My manager, she put it on like a poster for our band. I was like, that's incredible.
Rich. Oh my God.
None of us corrected her though.
Fair enough.
Yeah, at Sammi Flower Potts. My website is Sammi Potts, SAMMIPOTTS. Instagram is my fave, so that's
Love
where
it.
I'll be.
Great.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you guys. You're the best, man. I can't wait for our just continuing this in our theater, funk theater, and our marimba playing and our mental health roundtable discussions with this plant. It's
There are
gonna
a
be
lot of next steps for us.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, lots of homework here.
Yeah, we do have homework. Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Get to some of that. Turn my blood to bloody water.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Nashville Drummers Podcast. If you've enjoyed these podcasts, please consider supporting us on Patreon. For $5 a month, you can help support this dream and keep the ball rolling for us. Believe it or not, it's not free or even necessarily cheap for us to make this thing go. To sign up, go to patreon.com/Nashville Drummers Podcast or click the link in our Instagram bio. All of your help is greatly appreciated.
Check out our new website, NashvilleDrummersPodcast.com. And if you're not already following us on Instagram, you can follow us at Nashville Drummers Podcast.
This episode was recorded at Diamond Sound Studios located in Nashville, Tennessee.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.